I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind, every day I'm being hunted as prey. My people don't want no trouble. We've had enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I'm your host, Trae Holiday, and you guys know where we are. We're at the CHAP right here, Capitol Hill. You know what I mean? We're doing it for the people, as always. There's been a lot of developments over the last few days. As you guys know, this is something that is constantly developing. The energy is constantly ebbing and flowing. I've been seeing a lot of positivity, now hearing about some other things too going on. You know, at the end of the day, this is something that really showcases when people come together, right? And that's one of the things that I still love the most. With that, I got to throw it over to my guy. He's been in the trenches, in these streets. Y'all know him. Y'all love him. Big O, what's up, O?
I mean, I hope they love me.
I hope they do, you know.
You know what I'm saying? Well, let's see.
I love you, man.
I know. I love you too, Trae. And there we go. I'm just over here on Twitter. It's wild right now. So good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the CHAP. I think that we're going to have to work and get our day counter. Now, since we have a barrier behind us, we can borrow one of these barriers and actually put like day number 22 or something like that. That's up there on the barrier. But as usual, before we get into the CHAP, before we get into the CHAZ, before we get into the protest, I want to acknowledge you, Trae, and how much of a pleasure it is to have you on set. You bring a whole nother energy over here. I think they call it black girl magic.
Hey,
you know what I'm saying? Every time you step up in here. And I know it's black girl magic because whether we're in the studio on Jackson or out here in the streets of the CHAP, you just bring a whole nother element, another dimension to this show. So I'm happy that you're here today.
Thank you, my brother, man. Always a pleasure to be with my team. You know what I mean? We was doing this. I don't know. We started almost 2 years now. Camera phones, man.
And the camera phone collective. And you know, it's funny for people sitting at home and they're thinking about doing something. It was like we ain't had nothing, but just some just the ambition. And it was the camera phone collective. And oddly enough, that same camera phone from 2 years ago was the same camera phone. They were capturing all this stuff here. Sometimes you just got to do what you can with what you have.
That's right.
Something else that somebody talked to. I just got off the phone with an interview with the people in Turkey, in Istanbul, right? And what they talked about was like, did you guys start this morning update, this news coverage just for the CHAZ and the CHOP? And I told her I'm proud to say that we started the morning update show around COVID because we felt people in our community, in the black community of Seattle, weren't getting enough information and real information. So the morning update show actually started as a show. We started the day that Governor Inslee shut the state down. We called Daryl. We called DQ. Triana was with it. Dirty Hands was with it. And we started the morning update show as a show to be able to give real information in real time for people around COVID-19.
That's right, absolutely. And I love how you set that up. Oh, you know, to be proud to say that it wasn't about the protest. It wasn't about monopolizing on any of this energy. And even your coverage down here. Again, I got to remind the people, lives downtown. So literally that Friday when you were capturing the looters, you was on your way home.
Well, oddly enough, they took me home because, you know, the Studio A is on Jackson Street, and I caught up with the guys, you know, on the way downtown. I caught up with the guys who were doing their thing downtown. And then they ended up walking over to Westlake and destroying everything along the way. So, you know what I'm saying? I tagged it at home. I mean, I wish I could say what got us here, you know, in the CHAZ and becoming such a reliable news source was it was a strategy on a whiteboard or whatever, but it wasn't. it was just, the right time, the right place, and a lot of a willingness for hard work and commitment, but most importantly, a commitment to just listen to all parties and to be able to just try to, tell the truth as you see it.
Yeah, that's all you really can do. And I think that that's why folks resonate with the messaging. As honest and raw as it is, you can't get any more honest than that. Like you said before, hey, you put the camera up and the camera tells the story, man. Absolutely.
The camera tells a story, and I'll be honest with you, the camera's been telling a very interesting story the last few days, as we reported to you live yesterday when SDOT first came here and they put down the barricades, and we saw that something was afoot. And today SDOT is still out here. They're doing a little bit of cleanup work. But I'll tell you what, Trae, here's the issue as I see it that's going down here in the CHAZ is that, Chief Scoggins has definitely emerged as the credible messenger. Right, you know what I'm saying? We kind of saw inklings of that early on, and people heard me on the streams like, man, people really respect the chief. Also, Sam Zimbabwe from SDOT, Mari Hara from Public Utilities. They've literally walked the turf every single day and built relationships here. The only issue that they face, though, is that because there is no one leader who wants to say, I am the leader, I'm accountable, I'm responsible, or one executive committee, although I hear that they're forming an executive committee, then it's kind of like musical chairs. So whoever's sitting in the chair this day saying, hey, we're representing X, Y, and Z. So that being the case, you got a group of protesters who are very, they're happy about this, but a larger group of protesters who saying they're not happy. And believe it or not, there's quite a few people who said they never knew a meeting was occurring. They never knew the chief was meeting with people and everything else. I do know from our side here at ConvergeMedia, we actually streamed 2 of the meetings. The meetings were out there. They're very public. The first 2, the last 2, we weren't invited. But the first 2 meetings, we streamed them right here from our production facilities. And so, there is a division that's in here. We're actually still cutting up the tape from yesterday. We did a lot of interviews of how people feel about the barricades, and it ranges everything from they're not really tripping about the space being reduced so much because a lot of the key elements, but it's the safety of it because now a car can come through here one way and they're much closer to the protesters, all the way to other people feeling like the actual space of the protest zone has now been diminished.
Wow. I mean, I think that there's a lot of varying opinions out here. And I do think that, an executive committee is kind of the right way to go for the CHOP. I mean, ultimately, there's a lot of voices here. And I think there's been a lot of volunteers and protesters who have really shown themselves to be staples here in this area. And I think that those staples need to be at that table. And again, identifying who they are, identifying who those, metrics are. We talk about the medics, you talk about the no-cop co-op. I mean, when you're talking about certain things, they were pretty much staples here. And I do think that the executive committee might be the right way to go in terms of real negotiations.
Well, I'm not experienced enough in protest organization and coordination to put a 2 cents in there, but I do know that it's a very difficult situation that the city, especially Fire Chief Scoggins, finds himself in. Like I said, as the credible messenger who's on the ground here, man, is exactly who is he dealing with, who's he talking to, and everything else. And some of the protesters, we talked to a guy named Payday yesterday who works with a group called Emerge. We talked to Mark Anthony, and we're going to play this clip here. He talks about how CHOP got its name and why it's named and everything else. We talked to quite a lot of people who, and it very well could be, and not talking about Payday or Mark Anthony, but it very well could be that on camera, the popular consensus is to be like, nah, we don't like this. I mean, you never know until there's actually official communication that's out here. Greg Hausch, who was on the stream yesterday, he was one of the people who organized the Occupy movement, Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Boston, Occupy this and that. And he's out here, and so down there's he didn't want me to refer to him as a professional organizer, but he's a professional organizer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now, whether he's getting paid for it or not, he has the professional skills in organizing people. So now you've got people like Greg out here who are now, one of the people who's organizing the General Assemblies and organizing this and organizing that. And so now we see that guys are becoming more organized, and it very well could be that the protesters or the occupiers now at this point are like, hey, things are going to move on our timeline. When we're ready for whatever, when we're ready, then we're going to talk to the city. And, of course, the city is looking for an expedient resolution over here.
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be in their best interest to try to resolve this as quick as possible. And I think that you actually brought up something that's really important. If Chief Scoggins is going to be the one to really kind of lead those discussions, it is important for him to be able to establish who those folks are, because we all know that a lot of this stuff in terms of real resolution in a city, it's about relationship building, right? And it's really about people understanding who they're dealing with. And you can't do that if it's a rotating, group. So it's good. Hi, thank you.
The deaf chef's the only guy that can walk in the middle of our set like this,
bro.
by the way.
Love you.
Big shout out to the deaf chef. You know what I'm saying? I hope he brought me some.
But I do think that relationship building is key, and you gotta do that in order to actually have that trust and build the trust that's necessary. On CHAZ with Trae last week, one of my guests actually talked about the fact that some of this relationship stuff really happened because cops no longer knew who they were patrolling, right? They didn't know their neighborhoods enough. They weren't doing their beat. We come from that era of like the beat cop who walks their blocks, and people come out of their homes and they know them. When they're picking up their mail, when they're coming out, with their robes on, they're like, hey, what's up? They know that cop, and that cop knows their kids, and they grow up understanding who that family is and who that child is. So the fear and the trust is completely different in those types of relationships, and I think that that's really what we need to get back to. And I think Chief Scoggins has a great opportunity here if he can get with the right people to build those relationships.
Right, and the thing is the chief, from my observation, the chief, Zimbabwe, these guys, they're out here. They've been out here since day one, since the day the barricade fell, because the first thing the chief did was inspect the building because they weren't able to spray the fire retardant onto the East Precinct. They wanted to spray the fire retardant onto the East Precinct and some of the adjoining buildings here. But if you remember, the day that the barricade was lifted, there was actually a standoff all the way until the final minutes. Yeah. You guys were here. Remember, the thing is, they were like, okay, in about an hour, the police were like, they were going to clear out. And guys pushed that barricade right up here, and so then it was all the way to the last minute. And so the fire department was never able to come in and do the retardant and some other things that they wanted to do here. But Chief Scoggins has been on the ground since, literally since day one. And, to be honest with you, at least the visibility as we see as members of the media, he's a person that's literally gained a lot of the trust and everything from people over here in the zone. Real quick, I got to tell you, man, we got to give a big shout out to the South Seattle Emerald. They're actually the streamers now on their site. Awesome. Marcus Green, everybody over there at the Emerald. And, things are a little crazy right now, but actually what Marcus and the team over there is working on is they're going to be sending their correspondents over here, their reporters over here to the Morning Update show, and they'll be reporting on some things and giving further analysis and insights on the articles that they're writing over there. So if you haven't visited them yet, it's SouthSeattleEmerald.com. SouthSeattleEmerald.com. Want to welcome them and all the followers of the Emerald.
Oh, man, you got to love that. We know Marcus. Thank you, man. Shout out to Marcus. Such a great in-depth interview with him on the Morning Update show months ago now, I think. But, honestly, that's what you got to love. You got to love the community who steps up and says, look, the media is not telling my perspective. So shout out to Marcus, said he started that in his mama's basement. You got to love that dedication, baby. I love the fact that this media collaboration amongst community media can really take flight. You know what I mean? I love that. So shout out to all of you guys over at South Seattle Emerald. We love y'all. Much love, partner.
That's what it is. So we did a lot of interviews yesterday, and one of the big things people keep asking is like, man, why is it called CHOP? How did CHOP get its name? What's it all about and everything else? And so I ran into a guy. His name is Mark Anthony. That's what he identifies as. We'll never know if we'll get actual real government name out here. You know what I'm saying? But, his handle is Mark Anthony. But he is somebody that I have seen out here for quite a while. He's somebody that I've seen back when the barricade was still up. I've also seen him do a lot of de-escalation out here. And so we asked Mark Anthony yesterday, man, what's this CHOP all about? You know what I'm saying? And this was his response. Explain to us then, how did CHOP get its name? Why is it called CHOP?
So actually, we organized a protest, and we didn't have a plan to come up with a name. But somehow the narrative CHAZ started coming around. And this being a Black Lives Matter movement, I don't know any black people or any people at all that said yes to the name CHAZ. As a matter of fact, I talked to most people in the community here, and none of them liked the name CHAZ that I talked to. So, seeing what it was for what it was, that it was a name creating a false narrative to make a joke out of us, I said we need to come up with a new name that gets the point across. And somebody came up with the suggestion, CHOP. Like I said, I don't make decisions here. I'm just a voice. We all come together and make decisions of ourselves. But I definitely said that sounds like a great name. Now we got to come up with an acronym for it. Capitol Hill Organized Protest. Thus, CHOP was born. The one thing that I did add was the historical significance of it, because with my degree in history, I have access to information that a lot of people don't know. The information, or the relation to CHOP and its historical significance is the French Revolution. Are you guys familiar with that?
Yeah. Yes.
So in the French Revolution, that is another revolution that was started because the rich started getting too rich, the poor started getting too poor, people started valuing property over people, money over lives, correct? So, in the French Revolution, what happened to those who did not get on board with the French Revolution?
They got their heads chopped with the guillotine.
Correct. That's the historical significance. So if you're talking to somebody who came there with CHOP and they don't know that, you should really question how with CHOP they are, or if they just call.
All right. So as we see right there, and actually the whole stream from yesterday is up on YouTube as well. I know a lot of people, man, especially up here in this area, they really don't agree with the politics around Facebook and Zuckerberg and everything else. They were like, man, you got to put the streams, take it off Facebook, put it somewhere else. So right now we're streaming through for the live on Facebook, but every stream goes up right on YouTube as well for people that want to access that. And actually we're working right now for the archive that's in our website as well. So if you go to whereweconverge.com, you can see a lot of the stuff there.
You hear that, Mom?
But basically, and speaking with Mark Anthony yesterday, what he talked about is that, like, man, they're getting towards the point of organization with the General Assemblies and everything else. Well, they'll be in a position for proper negotiation around their terms. My thing is this. I think that probably where people early on missed the mark over here, at least the protesters or the occupiers. The protesters or the occupiers should have been like, look, man, we're a new forming government over here, a party. We're not talking to anybody for like 3 weeks. We'll talk to you in 3 weeks, and then we're going to do it. Until then, we're going to do our own thing. Give us time. But that isn't what happened here. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? What happened here was that early on, people just jumped out like, yeah, I represent this. I represent this. I represent that. And you know what I'm saying? I mean, and that's why I get so many calls. I sat on the phone yesterday with the Associated Press for over an hour doing really myth busting.
Yeah.
And all kinds of stuff. And some of the stuff came from, fringe elements, but a lot of the stuff they're playing me interviews from people here in the CHOP who be in here and they're just saying that this is what we want. That's what we want. This is what we want. That's what we want. And so, the occupants of the CHOP have done themselves new service in kind of jumping out there early and getting in front of these national and international news cameras with so many diverging views, so many different diverging, things about it. Now, I know nobody intentionally is like, oh, let me collude, let me muddle an issue or everything else. But people need to understand that the majority of my interviews now is international media. Right. And like, what people are saying right here, and I think what they've called now Black Lives Matter Square down there at Cal Anderson Park and everything else, you're not just talking to somebody. And even with an iPhone, you got to remember, even us guys, our coverage here, this is all iPhone coverage. So just because you see somebody with an iPhone, it's like, oh yeah, this and that. That footage is going around the world, guys. And so,
it's really telling its own story. Oh, I mean, a lot of what I've been hearing is exactly what you're talking about. Myth busting. You know, they want to know, is this real? Is that real? You know, hey, I was hearing this. I was hearing that. And so, you know, all I could do was speak to what I kept witnessing, right? Because I wasn't seeing that. I wasn't seeing the dissension that they were talking about. I wasn't hearing it. All I kept seeing was peace, you know, people trying to do their thing. And I think you're right in terms of organizing. You know, people were tired. People were fed up. And that energy brought people out to the streets. And then you have to take that energy and do something with it. And I think that's what folks down here are really trying to decipher. What is it we do with this energy?
Well, I mean, the other thing is like, you know, chop is something different to some of everybody.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you looked at this differently, if you looked at this like as a sporting event, right? And so, you know, I'm a big Mariners fan, lifelong fan. When I was a kid, people always ask me why I wear this Mariners stuff. When I was a kid, Alvin Davis and Harold Reynolds, man, they used to come to the Central District, and they give us free tickets to come down and see the Mariners. And as a small kid, man, and you sit up there in that Kingdome, and it was like, wow, you know what I'm saying? And so I've been rocking with the Mariners ever since, man, because of the kindness of Alvin Davis and Harold Reynolds, man. You know what I'm saying? And this was over 3 decades ago.
Goes back to childhood.
But if you put it in a sport, you can talk to a lot of people. They'll go to a Mariners game. Some people are hardcore baseball people. They got their stat book and everything else. And you're like, why'd you come to the Mariners game, man? I like to see the balls and strikes and keep score. Other people are like, man, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to build with my son before he goes off to college. Yeah. Other people are like, well, you know, we just landed a big deal and we wanted to be able to reward our, you know what I'm saying, our client and everything else. They're still all at the same Mariners game.
Right.
But, you know, they're all there for a different reason. And most people, you know what I'm saying, are hoping for a victory for the M's. But you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's a lot of kind of what you see here when we interview people. Some people, they really view, and this is why I don't think people at CHOP might even realize, it's a lot of people who now view this as the revolutionary epicenter of social justice and change in America. Yeah. 100%. We talk to people here, and they're like, man, this is the place. This is the jump off. This is where it's happening. This is, man, I'll take that. Thank you. You guys who follow the stream know I don't get much sleep.
You see this? So, empty hand.
So they'll forgive me for drinking this on air. But when you got other people who are like, man, this is just the utopian society of what, you know, what the future could be like, you know, in a society where people police themselves. Just those two views right there are different. It's a lot of people who are just like, man, I don't know about politics. I don't know about utopia, but I know the art is dope. Yeah. And so, you know what I'm saying? And so then they're there. And I mean, I think that in any society, just like we use this analogy of a Mariners game, there's enough space for everybody if this is what, you know, people want it to be. But, you know, I think that the political side of it, because, you know, the political side is the most volatile anywhere, and it's the most forward-facing and everything else. The political side of the communications here is probably what needs to get on board. And even if the CHOP's saying, you know what? He told me I'm getting off my mark. Even if the CHOP is saying, like, we just need more time.
Yeah.
That's still a statement. Like,
I want to say this, too, and I want to just lift this up. There's nothing wrong with the CHOP not having a political statement. If the CHOP is like, look, what we know is we didn't want black people to be dying by the hands of police. We know we didn't want black people to be having inequality. We didn't want this racist system. We're tired of that. I keep on going back to that because, honestly, that is really why a lot of black folks are like, hey, we want those folks down there to understand this struggle. What brought them out wasn't just about the art or the piece. They were like, look, a black man died. He had his knee on his neck for 8 to 9 minutes, and I had to sit there and watch that black man die. I can't do that anymore. When I hear about the stories of black mothers and black fathers who are afraid for their children, I can't stomach that anymore. When we go back to the issues that brought everybody out in the streets, it really is an issue of equity and equality. And I think that if the folks down here don't have a political agenda, join up with the black community that does, because I will tell you this much. There's a lot of work being done in the black community regarding these issues that originally brought everybody out. And ultimately, I think what you said is true. If they don't have an agenda, that's okay. If you need more time, that's okay. If you're building an executive committee, do it. But also understand and remember what brought you out here. You know what I mean? And actually, let's work on those things so we can move equality and equity forward for this nation. I think CHOP really stands as a leader in this nation to do that. And I think that joining with the right forces who have the right agenda and strategy that maybe they don't, maybe it's the energy that matches the strategy, and that's how we move it forward. So I just want to put that out there. Like, remember what brought you out originally and the rage that you felt and the anger and destruction that you felt like, I can't deal with this. That is really the sentiment to go back to when you're talking about how do I build strategy to think about situations and some sustainable change. That's what I think a lot of these folks want.
So let me tell you, the people they fortunately for us, they watch this show and they listen to every word, and believe me, they hear it on Twitter. I want to be clear that I never said that they did not have an agenda. Those words did not come out my mouth. That's a word that slipped into your mouth. What I said is that on the political side, because the political side meaning that who negotiates with the mayor, who negotiates with Governor Inslee, what I said is that we're not seeing a firm leadership there. Their agenda is actually posted right there in the park. It's a big sign right there that's behind the soccer field, and we actually went there twice yesterday when we interviewed Mark Anthony. We showed it, and then we also went back over there and we showed it. So I just want to be clear because, believe me, you know what I'm saying? Man, I hear about it.
Well, look,
I didn't say they didn't have an agenda.
So if they
and
have
their
an
agenda starts now. Hold on, let me tell you. Agenda point number 1 is Black Lives Matter.
Right.
And then there's quite a few other points that are, and these are like broad things, things that can fit on a poster. It's not like paragraphed and itemized and everything else. You know what I'm saying? So their agenda is there. What I'm saying, though, is that in order to sit at the table, somebody has to sit at the table. Yes. And so, but what we keep hearing from people is like, well, you know what? I'm a leader, but this is leaderless because, you know, leaders get killed or leaders get whatever. And I'm just like, well, I mean, that's kind of the sacrifice of leadership, unfortunately, as well. I mean, you know, and the thing is, I could be learning something new. And I'm open to learn new things. And you guys who follow me all the time, we learn new stuff out here. But I've never seen it like that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm somebody who lived over in I lived over in East Africa for 15 years covering news over there. You know what I'm saying? Even when Southern Sudan emerged. And they're right, John Karang mysteriously killed in a helicopter crash right around the time the South Sudan got their independence. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You even go way back to Samora Machel back in Mozambique when Mozambique was helping the ANC, during the times of apartheid. And Samora Machel is killed. You know, Patrice Lumumba. I mean, it goes on. It goes on and on. Yeah. On that scale, you know, it goes on and even on the local scale here. So I understand what people are saying, but I mean, my personal opinion is until somebody owns it and says, man, this is going to win or lose. It's going to fail or succeed on my shoulders, on my back. I'll take the hit. I'll look out the window to give all the credit, and I'll look in the mirror to take all the responsibility. Then it's difficult for anybody to negotiate because people want to negotiate with the credible messenger.
Yeah, and I think you're so right. I love that. I'll look out the window to give the credit. I'll look in the mirror to take the to take the responsibility. I love that. And I think that, you know, even getting to the demands that you pointed out in Count Anderson Park takes some type of strategy and some type of leadership there. So literally, you know, my thing is, okay, you have an agenda. If there's no strategy to move forward with that agenda, if there's no, group that's saying we are doing this.
And I think that's what the GAs are about now.
And that's what I'm saying is that I was just going to say that I love that it's moving in that direction. That's why when you say something about an executive committee, you know, the General Assembly, these meetings, I think that that's what's happening. And I think you are right. You know, what they needed to be able to say was, give us time to figure this out. I think that is so true. And I think that in terms of a new organizing mechanism, Capitol Hill is thinking, look, we have to actually decipher and understand what it is that we want right now.
One of the things Greg talked about, and then Daryl, we're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna see if we can talk to Flora. I forget her name, but she's down there painting right now. But one of the things we talked about, even this guy Greg talked about, was just like, man, these guys could have their own press office every day, 10 a.m. briefing from the CHOP. Here's the information today at the CHOP. Today, you know what I'm saying, we picked up so many whatever of garbage. Today, the classes for this and that occurred. You know, or yesterday, X, Y, and Z. Today's this and that. I mean, and we saw that you don't have to have some kind of media background or training or anything. We saw that out in Kirkland around COVID with the people whose parents and grandparents were in the nursing home. They just went out there every day, and it was like, man, these people won't let us see our parents. Yeah. These people, man, they're not sanitizing this. They're not doing that, and they brought national and international attention to it. But you know what I'm saying? There is no daily briefing out here, and if there is no daily briefing, then you actually leave it in the hands of the media and anybody else to make a lot of assumptions because they're not putting their information out here. Right. You see what I'm saying? So yes, there has been misreporting, but you're leaving it totally up to now the reporter who might not have access to all the information. And I'm not saying just because you put out a release in your opinion of your organization that everybody jumps on board, but that's a starting point. Yeah. And you know that's one of the big things is it's like, okay, people are complaining about misinformation by media. I don't get too many complaints because as a streamer, it's unedited. People are just seeing what they see. Then take an initiative. Do a morning briefing. Get everybody's emails. Send out, here's the press update, media update today from CHOP. It could be, some days it's one item. Some days it could be 20 items. But it's like, man, accountability starts at home. You guys hear me on the stream. You can't outsource accountability and you can't outsource leadership. Right. And people come to me like, well, man, why aren't you saying this? Why aren't you saying that? That's not my job. I'm staying in my lane. And my job is not to bolster the protesters. I done told these guys from day one. That's not my job. I'm not here to bolster your issues, your agenda, or anything. It's like I'm not here to bolster the cops or anybody else. But 100% people say is I try to be as fair as possible. And when the police, when I felt that force was disproportional, got on Twitter, had people all over the world tweeting the mayor. Calm it down. It down. But just like if the protesters, if they don't quite have it all together, you know what I'm saying? It'd be disingenuous to be like, well, you know, hey, I mean,
you got to be real.
That's a simple fix, simple fix around communication, because that's one of the biggest things that around these movements. And Greg, I don't know if he's going to be able to join us today, but so Greg, like I said, with his Occupy movement and all that kind of stuff, he brought a lot of insight for that part, and he said that, man, communication and ego is the two biggest things that killed, like, you know, the Occupy movement and some other movements he's been a part of. Is communication or lack thereof and ego.
Man, we got to get away from that.
And so, well, you know, so the thing is that if the people of the CHOP want the world to understand what's going on, then they need to be able to set the narrative and use the narrative.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
We're gonna take a quick break right now. I think it's only 51 seconds. We're gonna come back and we're gonna talk a little bit more. We'll also see if we can speak with one of these artists here. You are watching the Morning Update Show.
I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind, every day I'm being hunted as prey. My people don't want no trouble. We've had enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live.
Well, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. I'm your host, Trae Holiday, and with me is an amazing young artist. I'm so thrilled because, honestly, the artwork that is thriving and showing itself right here in the CHOP is phenomenal. Hey, Rosa, thank you for joining me, girl.
Hello.
Yes. I want, you to tell the audience what you're doing down there and why it matters to you to be doing it in the CHOP.
I'm painting on the open wood that's there, and I think it's important because not a lot of people see positive art around now because people are so angry and they don't know what to do. So I wanted to bring something positive, and yeah.
Okay, well, I know that we're trying to get a shot of your artwork down there. We got the shot. All right, so tell us a little bit about your art. We are showing it right now.
Okay.
Speak to what you're painting down there.
I put flowers and bright colors because I wanted it to be positive. And yeah.
What else do you have down there? Is that a fist and a heart? So what does it represent? You got the heart in the fist. It's like an iron heart. What is going on with that?
The fist shows like power to us and what we're doing with the protests and things. And the heart is just show love. Like all around we need to show love because the more hate is just not good for us and for the future. So we need to show more love.
You know, as a young person, I know that, you know, you're on the spot, but I really want to hear from you. You know, what does this movement mean to you? I mean, this is unprecedented. I know your parents have probably said this to you many times, like, whoa, this energy out here is different.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you and your generation?
Now, it's kind of hard because, like, we don't know really what's going on. I don't know too much about politics or nothing, so... But, like, when you go out to the protests, certain ones, you could feel the energy, and it just, most of them feel really good, powerful, and, like, you just get something out of it for the rest of the week, the month. Like, it feels so good to be out.
I love that. So I know that some folks were feeling, you know, oh my gosh, COVID made me have to sit in the house. You know, we see a lot. I know you guys probably, the younger folks, you know, especially the ones who your friends who are graduating and all of that. How have you personally been dealing with the needing to stay inside?
Me, I've been mostly good with it. The COVID has scared me a bit, but... yeah, I've been good with it and stuff, so.
Yeah, being with your family. So you said the COVID scared you, but you came out here today. Yeah. I saw you had your big mask on, so I know you're protected. You got your gloves on, but you still said, nah, I got to do this art.
Yeah, I feel safe with my mask and gloves and stuff, so as long as I feel safe, then I'll come out.
And you got your bodyguard on deck. You making sure you're good down there, you know what I'm saying? Making sure you're not playing no games.
Yeah.
Well, Rosa, thank you so much for joining us. Is there any last message you want to give our audience today about art, about this movement, about yourself?
I just think keep working together and doing positive work. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you guys heard it right here. Young generation. You know, a lot of the times we don't get to hear from our young folks. So I'm loving that Rosa came on today. I'm about to break. Lord, today, he won't let me speak. I got to break. I mean, golly, y'all. Y'all, you know, side with me a little. Thank you so much, Rosa.
Thank you
guys, you're watching the Morning Update Show. We'll be right back after this short break.
I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind, every day I'm being hunted as prey. My people don't want no trouble. We've had enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Morning Update Show. So I do hope that you guys have been enjoying.
But we're all volunteer.
We're all volunteer. I don't know what he's talking about. But I do hope you guys really enjoyed
Who
Rosa.
called him a cop?
At the end of the I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Look, we can't give that much energy. I don't know what's going on.
I apologize, you know, because the big thing is man, I don't want to be speaking over you.
Oh.
So on live TV here, we're going to do a reset.
All right on. Thank you guys for joining us on the Morning Update Show. As you guys can see from that clip earlier, you know, getting to hear the voice of the young people. Rosa was out here. She's doing some artwork. Thank you, for bringing Rosa on. You know, it's great to hear from that
I mean,
that's
the beauty of live TV. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes there's nobody out here, and then we start tap dancing and this and that, but she just happened to actually be there. painting and, getting her mural on and everything else. It's always good to hear from young people and different perspectives. And sometimes we hear from people's perspectives directly there in the microphone. And sometimes we hear from people's perspective as they tell us we're number one as they pass by our set. But either way, you know what I'm saying, we're getting the feedback.
Yeah, and we accept it all. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you've told me, being out here amongst the people, visibility is real. I mean, they know you're here. They know you're going to be here. And ultimately, maybe he knew, hey, I need to come at this time.
We get a lot.
My message,
I'll be honest with you, it's weird because, I remember watching sports on TV as a kid, and then people have their sign, "Hi, Mom," and this and that. And so now it's like we move through here with the stream, and people jump in front of the stream, "Hey, want to say hi to my wife," and this and that. So it's kind of crazy. Want to acknowledge a few things from yesterday is that, was it 2 days ago now? Might be yesterday. It all blends together, but the City Council of Seattle took action on 2 different items. The first one was to ban the use of tear gas, pepper spray, rubber bullets, and I think even that LRAD audio disorienter by the Seattle Police Department. The second thing is to totally ban 100% the use of the chokehold, within the city of Seattle. So we saw both those things occur yesterday. I think it was 9-0 votes. I don't think anybody wanted to vote for that, especially if they're considering running for re-election. Yeah. I think there's a consensus across all districts in Seattle, about the use of force. And a lot of people said that it really is. So, okay, we're talking about the city wins, and then you talk about, like, protester wins. And a lot of times, the city is politicians, so they'll be like, hey, if a neighborhood won, that means we won too. Right. You know what I'm saying? But, I mean, a ban on the tear gas and all those kind of things was directly, 100%, directly came out of the people who stood here on the Western Barricade and got smacked day in and day out. They got smacked by tear gas and some other stuff that, man, even me, I don't know what it was because I got hit with it quite a few days. It's the people who got hit with rubber bullets. I got hit with two. Ben Winchell, man, he came out here, man. One day he got hit with 5. Another day he got hit with 6. You know what I'm saying? And people who were hit with the spray and everything else. If some people might be agree with the city council, it's unanimous vote, and so, I mean, they're voted into office. You would think unanimously that the people they represent in this municipality of 88 square miles also agree. But whole point being is that, man, that legislation didn't really come about because of what happened downtown that Saturday. It came about because here in a residential neighborhood where right now on the media people want to say is a bunch of, people who don't work, they're shooting up heroin in their toes and this and that. Man, these are everyday people in a residential neighborhood. Yes. And, so me, like I said, I'm a correspondent. I've been worked around the world, all kinds of hot zones and everything else. So, man, I'm kind of used to a flashbang. I'm kind of used to whatever. I mean, some of the threats we had to worry about back in the day is they're going to put a poison gas out on us. You know what I'm saying? But you have people who grew up in this neighborhood who all of a sudden in one day were like, is this still America?
Yes.
And those are the same people that fuel this protest and everything else. You had some people who didn't care about the protesters or the city, but tear gas got into their home and their child had an allergic reaction. Yes. You see what I'm saying? We talk about the nurse over there is Swedish who just walked by in his scrubs off work. He's like, yeah, hands up, don't shoot, gets tear gas. The next day, 12 nurses from Swedish come out. Right. And so, I mean, that's the thing, but it's the people right here. Because if it was one day, that Monday, the pink umbrella day, the day I got that video, if everybody went home, there wouldn't be no legislation.
Yeah, and let me just
But people
say,
kept coming to this barricade.
You are so right. Oh, and I also think that's what I was going to say. The media, you being there, others being there, streaming helped to tell that story.
The citizen journalists also played a big role because people like myself, people like Jerry Weiser, people like Future Crystals, all the streamers had the info. It went out there and it was undeniable. Because if guys remember that Monday, the Seattle police actually put out their press release that said Capitol Hill residents instigated a riot. Yep. It was the citizen journalist. It was that pink, and I know I cussed too much on that clip. And my mama, she's ashamed every time she said, boy, why are you cussing like that? I was like, Mom, it's tear gas, it's pepper spray, it's flashbangs. But those clips right there from citizen journalists is actually what went in and took this story around the world. And so, clearly, if it's a 9-0 vote that banned tear gas and everything else, then that's how the city felt. But I think the people who were here when the Western Barricade was here, and they came here every day, and the last night was, man, the greasiest night, man, because like the rubber bullets, so it was like, okay, no tear gas. It was some other gas they put out, but the rubber bullet spray that night was so crazy. And so, you know, people who were here, they pushed for change. The law is now changed.
And you got to give credit where credit is due. Ultimately, that's really why Seattle is emerging as a national leader in this front, because taking this momentum and saying, look, we have to push for these things, those were proper demands. You know, no chokeholds, no tear gas makes a lot of sense for these protesters and for the rest of the people in Seattle who actually have something to say, and they want to bring their voices to the streets. You know, to utilize any of those measures to try to muffle the voices and the people power when people come together, that is not okay. And ultimately, everybody down here, and I think everybody across, anybody who's actually fighting for equity, you know, would agree that those tactics do not have a place when we're sitting here being peaceful. And so I'm loving the fact that the pressure was on right here in the CHAZ.
I mean, but there's another side of that story as well, though. Is that what I'm hearing is that the police officers union, they're like, well, man, we can no longer use the chokehold. We can't do X, Y, and Z. That you know, and I can't confirm this at the moment, and so I want to be able to put that out there. We want to be able to confirm it. That, like, man, they want to renegotiate because they're like, man, you know, we can't use tear gas, we can't use the chokehold. We want to renegotiate the contract. So, I mean, this has been a real interesting and trying time here in Seattle. If you remember back during COVID, 20 years ago, you know, one of the big things is that the mayor wanted to release the federal consent decree on the Seattle Police Department. And, man, you talk about something that spiraled down since then. You know what I'm saying? And we have to remember, I was here, I covered it. All the protesters asked for, and it's understandable and not understandable that there's not enough trust between the police and protesters and police. But that Sunday, they just wanted to pass on Pine. Turned away twice. That Monday, they said they just wanted to peacefully pass on Pine, and the barricades was out here, and the SWAT, the tactical guys were out here, and that kind of set the stage of what we saw for the next 1 week until that Western barricade was cleared and everything else. And it's kind of is when we talk about this, it's like, well, for now, at least, you know, every day I come up here, I'm like, well, it's still here. It's still in one piece. The precinct is still here. Yeah. I mean, the protesters never even asked for the police to leave.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, they did it. It was some heavy comments and heckling that we'll say on air here. But I mean, I never saw a formal demand from anybody that said that we want the Seattle Police Department to abandon their precinct. That was not anybody's demand.
I think it goes back again, and this is why relations among the police and the citizens is so important. If there was more of a relational base, the police actually wouldn't even responded like that, because they would have known. I feel they would have known. Look, okay, we know our folks in Capitol Hill, the police that literally do their beat path along these blocks and know these folks would be able to tell all the others who are doing blocks and other zip codes, whatever. They'd be able to say, look, we know these guys. You know, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so, that's so. Literally, that's not how we need to proceed. Let's let them pass through. Let's let them be peaceful. I feel that it goes back again to relations. And I think that when people are talking about police reform, a lot of it goes back to, we need to understand and have trust and build the trust. And the only way to do that is to break down the ways that you kind of come against the regular people. You cannot muffle the people power. You have to let that thrive. And then you have to work alongside it to create sustainable change. I think that's really what's important now as we move forward. You know what I mean? We really want to have a merging. I think that would make more sense in terms of really strategizing and creating sustainable change. So,
well, I mean, but I'll be honest with you too, that, you know, and I mean, I call it like I see it. And when I see the protesters out here tripping, especially when the barricade was here, you guys saw me, and I'll be in their face like, nah, man, you know, that's not what's up. And when the police, we feel they're wrong, the mayor, SDOT, or whoever. But one thing I could say, and I said this that Saturday downtown, and it didn't come out until days later, but that Saturday downtown, I said, man, these state police are aggressive. The staters got out, and it was real aggressive during that Saturday protest. And you saw it, and you hear me on the stream. I'm like, man, these state police are real aggressive. And that's Governor Jay Inslee's state police, by the way. And every time it would go down here on the whatchamacallit, we'd be like, okay, well, there's SPD. There goes the National Guard. Uh-oh, here come the staters.
Yeah.
And sure enough, somebody caught the state police on tape saying, don't kill him, but just hurt him up real bad. Who do you want to hurt? Do you want to hurt the nurse that lives in the neighborhood that works at Swedish but's just out here protesting? Do you want to hurt the artist? I met this guy Henry yesterday who painted right over there. Do you want to hurt the same guy that's probably building the interface on the Facebook page that you're going to go back to your state or a Facebook page and brag about? Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. Do you want to just hurt the average citizen or somebody who's over at Cal Anderson Park? And so once that came out, we always knew, Bobby, that was the tone and pace. You know what I'm saying? This is good. Oh, watch your cable. There you go. Live TV. We knew that, it was an aggressive nature, like I said, of the state police. And we tell Governor Inslee, like, yo, man, this is heavy out here. And sure enough, and the head of the state police had to come out and apologize because their officer was like, don't kill him, just hurt him up. The officer wasn't like, man, what kind of de-escalation tactics do we have? When I interviewed Mayor Durkin on Friday, if any of you guys saw that pink umbrella video, the first thing that you hear me saying is, before it popped up, hey, guys, how can we bring this down? How can we de-escalate this? So you know what Mayor Durkin said? She said, man, that should have been our people. Right. That was the job. You know what I'm saying? That should have been their people. You know what I'm saying? And my crazy ass, when all this gas is out there, I'm up there yelling at the police, stop the gas, stop the gas. But, the mayor was clear that it's like, man, as a citizen journalist, for me, I'm like, yeah, let's bring this down. Let's de-escalate this. But that wasn't necessarily my job. But you can tell, like I said, with that tape from the state police, they had no intention of de-escalation. They had no intention of being like, hey, guys, this might be the best practice. They had that, you know what I'm saying? They had no intention of anything out there but what the commander told them.
Yep. And
don't kill him, just hurt him up real bad.
And you know what? When you point that out, it's so, so sad. But it's also something that a lot of folks who have been disenfranchised, those of the global majority, as I like to say, because I don't use people of color, but those from the global majority that have been,
you got some new slang out here.
Yeah, huh? You can't really say color when you're talking about black folks.
I can still put that on Twitter.
Yeah, global majority, those from the global majority. But basically, I think that, what you're describing, again, it goes back to the relations when those from the global majority have been left out and all of that, and really it causes that uprising. The relations between the local police weren't there. And so then Jay Inslee felt he needed to bring in the state police. At the end of the day, I'm always going to say it goes back to relations, because if it wasn't looking like that type of situation out here, if the local police, like Mayor Jenny Durkin said, if they were the ones coming out here to say, look, guys, hey, you guys want to walk peacefully? Hey, let's walk alongside you. If they were the ones being inventive and innovative in their approach, instead of using what I consider the old normal approaches, right? And I think what Jay Inslee did was an old normal approach to bring the state police in, as part of their, criteria. Like, hey, that's their emergency response plan, right? But ultimately, there needs to be a new one. That's what we talk about. We talk about strategizing and really working with community to devise those plans so that folks who are wanting to protest and utilize their voice, that they don't feel that muffle coming down from the top. That's what we need.
I think Jay, and we give Jay a lot of props out here. You know what I'm saying? Jay Inslee's dad, the late Frank Inslee, he was assistant coach at Garfield High School, 1954, 1955. Garfield's first state championship in basketball of many and the most in the entire Pacific Northwest, by the way. Garfield Bulldogs in the building. So, it's always, we always want to give the governor some kind of, an open view. But I think the governor was out of touch here, and I think that he got, misled, sham-shuckled, bamboozled, and led astray because he had no understanding that the people that he was turning the state police on, talking about don't kill him, just hurt him up, are the people who live in the neighborhood. Right. And even if they didn't live in the neighborhood, it was people that was peaceful, that was out here. And so, hindsight's 20/20. Yeah. I like to say if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of ifs if we look into retrospect. Yeah. But just on some programming notes before we get out of here is that we'll be, live streaming again today. And our big focus today is also to get more opinion of actual occupiers to see what their thoughts are here of the barricades. And then we want to talk more to residents who aren't necessarily, in shop and active, and they're not necessarily again, but they're just here, you know what I'm saying? And so we want to get more opinion from people that actually live in the neighborhood. We're doing better now at editing up a lot of the video, and so there's a lot of interviews that are coming out for you guys that were watching early on. That video from Mark Anthony is should be up on our YouTube page right now. You guys can check that out. But for us, we're going to continue to tell the story, you know what I'm saying, as we see it. We're going to follow up with Kashama Sawant.
Shama.
I know I keep putting the K in there. My bad, and she knows. Whenever I see her, I always call her council member. And she's like, you can call me Shama. And I'm like, no, I can't call you Shama because my mom says that, you know what I'm saying?
Respect.
You've earned the title of council member. So, you know what I'm saying? So we'll be talking to council member Sawant. We want to reach out to her office. When we talked to the guy Payday yesterday, who's from the group Emerge, he said that they were supposed to meet with the council member yesterday. She sent a representative. They might not necessarily have taken that so kindly. Also, we want to talk to her about the follow-up over there at Cartender, the auto place that's right there. And we covered that when the place was broken into. We talked to the owner that night. He was like, man, nobody in City Hall cares about me. My representative doesn't care about me, and all these other kinds of things. So, I mean, this is Councilmember Sawant's district. And so, you know what? We've been hearing a lot of people saying things about the council member. So we want to give the council member a platform. So Jonathan, Sasha, council member Sawant, if you're watching this, platform is yours. You know what I'm saying? We want you to be able to come here, tell the people in the CHOP and tell the people in your greater district here as to what's going on and, what your role is here, or how integrated it is and everything else. So, we'll be following up with her. We'll also be following up some stuff with the mayor's office today as well.
Awesome. It really takes the voice of independent media to be out here to press for the right questions and actually understand the pulse of the people. And I think that that's really what Converge is doing on a grand scale. You know what I mean? Honestly. And I've even had local reporters tell me the same. Like being able to be free about the stories we tell really helps to shape our narrative and how we come at these stories, how we approach them. But also, too, we get the freedom to decide. Like, look, you're saying, look, Shama Sawant, the stage is yours. You're saying, look.
I mean, I have no problem.
Yeah,
I have no problem if it's gonna benefit transparency, right, and if it's gonna benefit communication and understanding, especially for the people here in CHOP, but also the residents of Seattle. You see what I'm saying? The citizens of Seattle, this is all of our issue. Yes. Even if only by reputation, everybody in the city is impacted. Even maybe somebody wants to bring a convention here, and they're like, ooh, I don't know, Seattle might not. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So we're all impacted. Some people more, locally in it, but generally every citizen of this city is impacted. So, I mean, again, and Councilmember Sawant, if you want to come here, you know what I'm saying? We'll be more than happy to stream everything, unedited, uncut, just like we did before over there at the baseball field. And I think that it would be a good platform for you to tell people in your district, right here in the CHOP and in your greater district and the city as a whole, as to what's going on down here from your perspective. So, we'll put that out there, and I'll follow up. We'll send an email here to the council member and see what she says. Nice. But we're over time. You know what I'm saying? As usual, we want to thank our production crew, Daryl. Daryl's gone bald because we stay on his head about all kinds of stuff. We got Trae over here today. And, of course, the incomparable, the postman, Mr. Bobby Steels. You know what I'm saying? Who's still delivering. Back in the days, he used to deliver gas masks to the front, but today it's coffee. So, you know what I'm saying? But he's still over here delivering. Trades, as usual, we're already standing.
Yes.
And so we're going to let you guys go with this. Catch us tomorrow at 11 a.m. And, again, welcoming everybody from the South Seattle Emerald. Here's Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun.